spending less than 1% of its GDP on oil, but willing to throw tens of billions of dollars to create an artificial paradise. Dubai orchestrated the greatest marketing scam of the 21st century. But what is the price of greed? Last March, the value of luxury real estate transactions here unexpectedly plummeted by 37%. The iconic Burj Al Arab Hotel was forced to close for renovations due to saltwater corrosion, while the $8 billion Tasri Reef underground fire drainage project still takes nearly a decade to complete. The safe haven of the super-rich is shaking violently under the pressure of the spectre of default, geopolitical wars, and total technological aging. That paradise is no longer the future, but is gradually becoming a huge unpayable debt. Buckle up, because the story behind these billion-dollar ruins will make you completely change your mindset about wealth. Let's be honest. You once thought Dubai was so rich that oil flowed from tap water, right? That was the media hoax of the century. The harsh truth is oil once accounted for over 50% of Dubai's GDP in the last century. But now it dropped below 1% and remained at the top level of less than 1%, while its neighbour Abu Dhabi comfortably sits on 90% of the UAE's oil reserves. Dubai has long faced a real resource depletion nightmare. So where does a desert principality get billions of dollars to gold-plate its towers? They couldn't dig for oil, so they chose to dig money out of the pockets of global investors under the guidance of the royal family. The build it and they will come model was born a sophisticated, centrally directed form of free market capitalism. The formula is incredibly simple yet mesmerizing. Established state-owned real estate conglomerates like Emaar or Nakheel. They were given public sandbanks at dirt cheap prices, then used the government's reputation to guarantee them access to international credit, borrowing money to build dreams. To attract money, Dubai launched a 0% tax scheme. They established a series of customs-free special zones, such as DIFC and JAFCA. They set aside local laws to incorporate English common law into management, creating a sterile financial playing field for Western corporations. Combined with Emirates Airlines and the seaport of Jebel Ali, they transformed the desert into a global toll booth. But the ultimate scam lies in the status marketing campaign. Dubai will not sell you an apartment. They sell you the dream of becoming royalty. By associating real estate with billionaires, supercars, and the golden visa, they transform the area into a safe haven. Whenever Europe experiences inflation, the Middle East is tense, or the world is unstable, capital flows are concentrated there to disperse the risks. Sadly, behind that facade of miraculous growth lies a massive financial leverage trap. This entire ecosystem relies entirely on short-term debt to sustain its mega structures. What is the nature of this desert illusion? Using money from later investors to pay for the extravagant illusions of those who arrive first. A Ponzi scheme disguised as urban planning. Extremely fragile against any toxic winds of macro-level influence. Can an economy that relies on the illusion of status and tax evasion survive a global capital reversal? And when the gold plating is peeled away, how much of the investor's wealth actually lies in real value? Or is it all just promises on paper? What do you think about this? As that ambition reached out to the ocean, that desert illusion hit a bitter concrete wall. Look at the billion-dollar islands sinking below sea level. When it comes to human greed, nowhere is it exposed more openly and expensively than in the Persian Gulf. They thought they could control the entire ocean. But the ocean has no debt contracts. And it certainly doesn't care how rich you are. Look at the World Islands Project.N. Ambitious $14 billion project to gather 300 artificial islands and arrange them into a world map. A brilliant idea on paper for attracting billionaires. What about today's reality? Most of those 300 islands are turning into a desolate sand graveyard due to a lack of construction and reinforcement following the financial collapse. Ocean waves are constantly washing away the surface, causing numerous islands to show signs of subsidence and sink back into the sea. Want to build a villa here? Be prepared for logistics costs, freshwater transportation, and offshore power generation to become so expensive that it turns into a debt nobody will bother to pay, a pile of abandoned sand that has remained untouched for over 15 years. That's the most complete definition of wastefulness. even the wonder palm Jumeirah. The $12 billion mega project, adding 560 kilometers of artificial coastline, is paying a heavy price for its extravagance. To create the palm tree-like structure that amazed the world, they sucked up millions of tons of sand, devastated natural coral reefs, and crushed coastal marine ecosystems. Furthermore, the design of the closed palm leaves completely blocked the natural flow. Seawater between the million-dollar villas became stagnant, turning into polluted channels. Now developer Nakheel is falling into a perpetual maintenance trap, having to spend tens of millions of dollars annually just to operate artificial aerators and pump sand to rebuild the beach, which is eroding day by day. You spend millions of dollars to own a luxury property, only to realize it's like a sandcastle that constantly needs money just to avoid disappearing. How much money can humans spend maintaining an artificial island before realizing that nature is always the ultimate winner? And how many investors who once uploaded Palm Jumeirah understand that they are buying an asset that has to cover daily losses just to counteract geological forces? If you think the ocean is Dubai's only enemy, buckle up, because the most devastating punishment comes from the desert sky itself. Nature has always found the cruelest way to mark human arrogance. Did you build the tallest building in the world? Great. But can you guess what happens when the desert experiences rainfall unlike anything seen in 75 years? The entire illusion of luxury crumbled overnight. This city was planned with a naive assumption: deserts never rain. They were busy covering every square meter of land with concrete to subdivide and sell plots, completely eliminating the natural absorption capacity. And then, when record rainfall, the heaviest since 1949, arrived, the sky exposed a deadly weakness. Dubai has absolutely no comprehensive urban stormwater drainage system. What are the consequences? Muddy floodwaters inundated Dubai Mall's Fashion Avenue, soaking expensive collections. The square surrounding the Burj Khalifa turned into a murky lake, completely isolating the center of downtown. The international airport was paralyzed. Thousands of first-class travelers were stranded in chaos, and the entire transit chain was disrupted. Luxury paradise turned out to be extremely fragile in just a few hours of extreme weather. And to correct that reckless disregard for climate change, in June 2024, the government approved the emergency Tasrif project worth $8.16 billion, 30 billion United Arab Emirates dirhams, spending over $8 billion, just to dig underground and install 36 kilometers of drainage pipelines aimed at increasing drainage capacity by 700%. Even more bitter, this project won't be completed until 2033. That means for almost the next decade, every time dark clouds gather, this desert paradise will hold its breath in fear. Where is the value of the tallest tower on the planet if you can't even step out of the lobby because floodwaters are knee-deep? Spending $8.16 billion just to rebuild the sewer system. Is this proof of financial strength or a monument to planning blindness? Nature attacks from the outside, but right inside those proud steel structures, another silent crisis is ravaging every joint. There's a bitter truth that Dubai's planners never include in their advertising scripts. Building materials have a lifespan, and concrete doesn't last forever. After more than 2 decades of operating at extremely high capacity, these billion-dollar icons are simultaneously reaching the point of technical aging. Placing mega structures in the middle of a coastal desert means subjecting them to double torture: the corrosive salt spray of the Persian Gulf and the merciless scorching temperatures every single day. Thousands of tons of steel expand continuously, while specialized glass systems struggle to withstand enormous temperature differences. For the first time in 27 years of pride, the 7-star Burj Al Arab Hotel was forced to make a humiliating announcement that it would temporarily close sections of the hotel for 18 months. Why? To overhaul the entire mechatronic system, MEP infrastructure, and reinforce the steel structures that had been corroded by sea salt vapor. Looking over at the Burj Khalifa, maintaining an 828-meter tower is also turning into a financial nightmare. The enormous cost of pumping water up to the 163rd floor, operating a massive self-contained cooling system, and hiring teams of glass cleaners constantly consumes an insatiable budget. not to mention other famous landmarks such as Armani Hotel, St. Regis, the Palm, and Atlantis, which is simultaneously facing a wave of capital-intensive repairs. The decline in service capacity has driven up luxury accommodation costs and forced authorities to shift their focus toward maintaining existing assets. Instead of expanding endlessly, Dubai is caught in a vicious cycle. The cost of repairing aging buildings is increasing exponentially, while capital is on the verge of shifting toward new rivals like Jeddah Tower in Saudi Arabia. Dubai is falling into the trap of perpetual maintenance, where energy and money are consumed without end. What happens when the maintenance costs of a record-breaking tower exceed the total commercial profit it can generate? This is not only Dubai's story. Will the super-rich continue spending $2,000 a night on an iconic hotel that's already decades old and constantly replacing rusty pipes? The corrosion of sea salt is dangerous, but it's nothing compared to the corrosion of frozen credit debt. If you want to know where Dubai's greatest weakness lies, don't look at the desert or the sea. Look at its balance sheet. The essence of the Dubai miracle before 2008 was actually an extremely dangerous game of financial leverage. State-owned enterprises borrowed short-term money from international banks and poured it into megaprojects that would take decades to recover their investments. They were betting that global capital would keep flowing forever. And then the bubble burst in 2008. Dubai's property prices plummeted by a staggering 56%. By November 2009, the real shock arrived. Dubai World Corporation requested a postponement on repayments of a $26 billion loan, pushing the risk of default on nearly $60 billion in financial obligations. Global financial markets were shaken. Investors who had once praised Dubai as a rising economic miracle suddenly saw it transformed into a troubled debtor on the brink of sovereign bankruptcy. When financial collapse seemed inevitable, who came to the rescue? It was Abu Dhabi, the oil-rich sibling that Dubai had once looked down upon. Abu Dhabi launched a $20 billion bailout package. But nothing in this world comes free. The price Dubai paid was a painful loss of independence. The center of political power permanently shifted toward Abu Dhabi. That lesson remains written in the skyline forever. When the world's tallest tower officially opened in 2010, the Burj Dubai was renamed Burj Khalifa in honor of the ruler of Abu Dhabi, whose financial support had helped save Dubai during the crisis. Dubai learned a harsh lesson. Gilded megastructures cannot be converted into cash quickly enough to pay debts when creditors come calling. What price could be higher than having to rename the nation's most iconic tower in exchange for a bailout? And if another global credit crisis were to happen, would Abu Dhabi once again be willing to inject tens of billions of dollars? Dubai spent 15 years recovering from the wounds of the 2008 crisis. But in 2026, another challenge emerged from geopolitics. Dubai's greatest asset in captivating the world isn't its record-breaking buildings or artificial beaches, but to simple words, safety. They transformed themselves into an oasis of peace. In a Gulf region that has constantly lived under the shadow of conflict, a safe haven for the world's wealthiest investors. But by 2026, those shields had developed fatal cracks. A multi-layered crisis erupted before climate change and infrastructure aging could even be addressed. Then the geopolitical shock arrived. The escalating regional conflict led to retaliatory drone and missile attacks, forcing the UAE to repeatedly tighten or temporarily close its airspace. Emirates Airlines experienced major schedule disruptions, cutting off one of Dubai's most important lifelines for high-end tourism. Although multi-layer defense systems such as THAAD and Patriot PAC-3 intercepted more than 95% of incoming threats, the remaining 5%, together with the constant sound of explosions, destroyed something far more valuable than buildings. They destroyed trust. Imagine you're a billionaire who has spent tens of millions of dollars on a villa at Palm Jumeirah or a luxury suite at the Burj Al Arab. Then, from your private balcony, you witness an intercepted missile exploding in the sky. The entire concept of a safe haven suddenly collapses. That psychological shock quickly appeared in the numbers. In March 2026 alone, the total value of luxury real estate transactions in Dubai fell by 37% compared with the same period the previous year. A wave of localized capital flight began. Beachfront villa projects started facing liquidity problems. Seven-star hotels struggled with record-high cancellation rates. At the same time, soaring marine and aviation insurance costs squeezed profit margins across the entire service economy. Dubai was forced to face a painful reality. Its tourism-driven and luxury real estate economy could not completely protect itself from the geopolitical instability surrounding the region. Are the ultra-wealthy still willing to spend tens of millions of dollars on beachfront villas if every night they must look toward the sky instead of the sea? When the image of a safe oasis begins to fade, what will keep global capital flowing into an artificial city built in the middle of the desert, a paradise threatened by nature, technology, and war? Is this the final verdict on Dubai's ambition? So, are Dubai's famous icons really dying? The answer lies between two opposing realities. If you look at ambitious megaprojects like the World Islands, devastating floods, and aging infrastructure, the cost of unchecked ambition is impossible to deny. But if you step back and examine the broader economy, you'll notice that Dubai in 2026 is no longer the same Dubai that entered the 2008 financial crisis. It has built stronger financial defenses. Real estate debt within the banking system has been tightened to around 14%. RERA now requires developers to use escrow accounts, preventing them from freely spending buyers' deposits before projects are completed. Most importantly, the non-oil economy now contributes between 77% and 95% of GDP, supported by a real population exceeding 4 million people, roughly double the population during the debt crisis. Instead of waiting for another bailout from Abu Dhabi, Dubai has approved a massive infrastructure budget of 300.7 billion United Arab Emirates dirhams for the 2026 to 2028 period. However, that doesn't mean the battle has been won. The era of easy money fueled by glamorous illusions is over. The enormous profits generated by tourism are increasingly being redirected toward maintaining aging infrastructure, replacing corroded systems, and repairing environmental damage. Dubai's race over the coming decade is no longer about building the tallest tower or the biggest artificial island. It has become a contest of resilience, a struggle between financial strength, technological capability, the limits imposed by nature, and geopolitical uncertainty. Dubai has not collapsed, but the dream of an eternal paradise that could ignore the laws of nature has officially shattered. Can Dubai succeed in transforming itself into a truly sustainable metropolis? Or will it once again be drawn into another generation of science fiction megaprojects? And looking at Dubai's experience, what has the world really learned about the cost of trading nature for rapid development? Dubai is not dead, but its illusion of paradise has vanished. It's time we look directly at the truth. Money can build skyscrapers, but only harmony with nature can keep them standing. Many of us see Dubai as a distant modern-day fairy tale of fantasy playground reserved exclusively for the super-rich. But the truth is that Dubai is simply an exaggerated version of the very world we live in. It is the clearest symbol of the 21st century illusion. A naive and arrogant belief that advanced technology and unlimited financial resources can permanently overcome the laws of nature. Right now, as countries around the world rush to pour concrete into deserts and build mega cities or land reclamation projects, Dubai's story has become a powerful warning. First and foremost, it reveals the price of haste. Humanity spent hundreds of billions of dollars creating an artificial paradise in just 2 decades. But that same economy has had to mortgage its future to pay for mistakes in ecological planning. Then came the collapse of the safe haven myth. No city can remain completely isolated from the combined effects of climate change and regional geopolitical instability. An overheated market driven by speculation and excitement will always remain fragile when faced with external shocks. This is also an important lesson for investors. The era of blindly buying real estate, based only on flashy 3D renderings, has come to an end. The true protection of any investment lies in sustainable infrastructure, ecological resilience, and genuine long-term cash flow. From one perspective, Dubai has carried out perhaps the most expensive urban experiment in human history. It proved that human ambition can create extraordinary achievements. But at the same time, it exposed the limits of money when confronted by the forces of nature. If a city backed by hundreds of billions of dollars and enormous financial resources still struggles to correct its own mistakes, then how will developing nations cope when ecological disasters become unavoidable? And how will history ultimately remember Dubai? As an architectural masterpiece that pushed civilization forward? Or as a monument to humanity's endless greed? Dubai once sold the world a dream that humans could spend hundreds of billions of dollars to conquer deserts, dominate oceans, and rewrite the laws of nature. But as record-breaking towers aged, and artificial islands slowly faded into decline, that illusion finally came to an end. Dubai did not completely collapse, but it was forced to wake up. Sometimes the truth is not found in the bright lights on the surface. It is hidden in the cracks beneath them. If today's perspective gave you something meaningful to think about, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss our next journey into the truth. What are your thoughts on the challenges Dubai is facing? Leave your opinion in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. Please note that this video is compiled and analyzed using financial reports, urban planning data, and publicly available media sources available at the time of production. The views expressed are analytical in nature, reflecting a macroeconomic perspective and development philosophy. They should not be considered financial or real estate investment advice. We also respect the reconstruction efforts, as well as the cultural and economic contributions that Dubai has made and continues to make to the global community.